The morning sun cast a pale glow over the airport as Alex Browning and his classmates arrived. The school trip to Paris was supposed to be the adventure of a lifetime, but as Alex stepped into the terminal, a strange unease settled over him. The fluorescent lights flickered faintly, and the distant hum of announcements echoed like whispers in a crypt. He couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. As they checked in, Alex noticed small, unsettling details. A janitor mopping the floor with a bucket of water that seemed too dark, a child crying inconsolably as her mother dragged her toward the gate, and a flight attendant's forced smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Boarding Flight 180, Alex found his seat and tried to calm his nerves. The plane's interior was cramped, the air thick with the scent of recycled oxygen and anticipation. As the engines roared to life, Alex's unease deepened. He glanced out the window, watching the tarmac blur as the plane accelerated. Suddenly, the world seemed to slow. The hum of the engines grew deafening, and the cabin began to tremble violently. Overhead, compartments burst open, sending luggage tumbling into the aisles. Oxygen masks dropped from above, and the screams of passengers filled the air. Alex's seatbelt snapped, and he was flung upward, his body slamming into the ceiling. Fire erupted from the fuselage, engulfing the cabin in a hellish inferno. The plane tore apart midair, a fiery explosion lighting up the sky. Alex jolted awake, gasping for breath. He was still in his seat. The plane hadn't even taken off yet. It had all been a vision. Heart pounding, Alex unbuckled his seatbelt and stood shouting, "The plane is going to explode!" His classmates stared at him in shock, some laughing, others panicking. A scuffle broke out as Alex tried to convince everyone to get off the plane. Security intervened, forcibly removing Alex, his best friend Todd Clear Rivers, their teacher Valerie Luton, and a few others from the aircraft. Moments later, Flight 180 ascended into the sky, only to explode in a massive fireball. The airport fell silent, the survivors staring in horror at the burning wreckage. Alex had been right. The days following the explosion were a blur of grief and shock. The survivors, Alex, Todd, Clear, Carter, Terry, Ms. Luton, and Billy, struggled to process what had happened. At the memorial service, the air was heavy with sorrow. Flowers and candles surrounded a makeshift shrine, and the names of the victims were read aloud. But amidst the mourning, Alex noticed a shadowy figure standing at the edge of the crowd. The man's eyes locked with his, and he murmured, "Death doesn't like to be cheated." The words sent a chill down Alex's spine. He tried to approach the man, but he vanished into the crowd, leaving Alex with a gnawing sense of dread. Todd, Alex's best friend, was the first to die. What seemed like a freak accident was anything but random. Alone in his bathroom, Todd adjusted the shower head, unaware of the water pooling on the floor. As he stepped out, his foot slipped on the wet tiles. In a desperate attempt to regain his balance, he grabbed the shower cord, but it coiled around his neck like a snake. His feet slipped again, and the cord tightened, cutting off his air. He struggled, his hands clawing at the noose, but the more he fought, the tighter it became. The bathroom mirror fogged up, obscuring his reflection as his life slipped away. When his body was found, the police ruled it a suicide, but Alex knew better. He remembered the order of deaths from his vision. Todd had been next. Terry, Carter's girlfriend, was next. Frustrated by Carter's growing obsession with Alex's theories, she stormed off after an argument. "You can't control everything, Carter," she yelled, her voice trembling with anger. As she stepped into the street, a speeding bus appeared out of nowhere. There was no time to react. The impact was instantaneous, obliterating her in a split second. The survivors stood frozen, their screams drowned out by the screech of tires and the sickening thud of metal against flesh. Terry's death was a grim reminder that death was relentless, its design inescapable. Ms. Luton, their teacher, tried to hold the group together, but the weight of guilt and fear was too much to bear. One evening, alone in her home, she poured herself a drink, hoping to numb the pain. A crack in her mug dripped liquid onto her computer monitor unnoticed. Sparks flew as she moved across the room, unaware of the gas leak. A stray flame ignited an explosion, sending shrapnel flying into her chest. She collapsed, her life bleeding out on the floor. The house burned around her, a fiery tomb for a woman who had only wanted to protect her students. Realizing the pattern, Alex fled to a secluded cabin, desperate to escape death's design. But Carter, defiant and reckless, refused to believe in fate. He drove toward a railroad crossing, determined to prove Alex wrong. His car stalled on the tracks as a train barreled toward him. At the last moment, Alex pulled him free, saving his life. But Billy, watching in horror, wasn't so lucky. A piece of flying debris from the wreckage decapitated him, his lifeless body crumpling to the ground. The survivors were running out of time. Alex rushed to Clear's house where downed power lines had turned her home into a death trap. Braving the chaos, he saved her, taking the brunt of the damage himself. He should have died, but somehow he survived. The cycle seemed broken. For a moment, there was hope. Months later, Alex, Clear, and Carter celebrated in Paris, believing they had outsmarted death. But Alex couldn't shake the feeling that something was still wrong. A bus veered dangerously close, eerily reminiscent of Terry's death. The signs were still there. As realization dawned, a massive sign swung loose above them. Carter lunged, pushing Alex out of the way. The sign crashed down, crushing Carter instantly. Clear screamed. The cycle wasn't over. Death was still watching. The nightmare had only just begun.